and welcome, dear viewers, to a special edition on Al24 News. I'm Selma Nasib, and today we're unpacking the 4th African Startup Conference, what the new RJ's declaration means for African founders. Join me today, Ama Ouattara, founder of the Africa Duolingo for Food, Qanat Africa. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Selma.
Sure. Ama, tell me, the Algiers Declaration talks about financing and mobility. From your policy work, what's one realistic change ministers could make next year that would actually help startups scale?
Well, as of now, if I had to share an honest opinion, I will believe that creating an African Innovation Mobility Pass will be the backbone of what could actually have forefront change and improvement for founders, as well as having founders to test markets. I'm from Ivory Coast. What will happen if I wanted to raise capital here in Algiers? What will happen if I wanted to raise capital in North Africa? And how will that help me eventually to expand and to hire regionally? So I do believe that you guys are extremely skilled at anything tech-related, AI, cybersecurity. If I were to collaborate with one of you, how will that work for Qanat Africa? And eventually, how will that work if I were based in Ivory Coast as well?
And tell me, Ama, what surprised you the most here at the conference so far?
I was surprised to see how every single African countries across continents were aligned on the same three main core issues. The first one being, how do we raise capital, how do we access markets, and how do we secure the talents to avoid the brain drains?
Great. And when you run national programs, where do the biggest policy bottlenecks like tax and regulation or implementation capacity?
As far as I'm concerned, I will have to go with the implementation capacity, because I do believe that on the ground work, the execution teams are overstretched, they're overworked. So how do we make sure that those people doing the ground work have proper access to the resources, proper access to capacity building as well, so they can make sure that they can achieve the KPIs and the results that they're expected to do so.
Okay, and how can national hubs like Hub Ivoire Tech help translate continental declaration into on-the-ground action, Ama?
So that's very interesting, because if I take the perspective of the Hub Ivoire Tech based in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, I see it as a bridge between policy making and people, because way too often the people on the ground doesn't realize how the policy that we does impacts their day-to-day lives. So the goal of a tech hub is usually to translate those huge documents, those 46 pages documents, into something that are actionable and visible for the citizens.
Do you prefer grant-based acceleration, or you have another idea maybe?
Everything, all of the above. We need to combine all of them, because it depends on how mature and early the ecosystem is. At the beginning, I will definitely suggest having a blended financial approach. Now, as we're maturing, we can have matching funds, so we can have useful pipelines when they're mature enough, so we can have a combination of grants, a combination of fundings, but we do need to have a tackled, blended financial approach.
Ama, tell us more about Qanat Africa.
Qanat Africa is my baby so far. I'm a proud mother. So Qanat Africa will be the African Duolingo, the African Duolingo for food and nutrition. I'd like to call it food as medicine. The goal is to gamify African cuisine, African knowledge. I used to grow up with my grandmother, Hawa. She used to have a pantry full of not medicine, but traditional plants, so she could cure anything. Eventually, unfortunately, she passed away when I was 10, and I saw that my family had a recruited sense of going to the pharmacy, going to the doctor. So to me, it was really important to secure my knowledge, secure my tradition, and eventually learn from someone from Algeria, someone from Ghana, and eventually have that platform where people, not only African, could learn and understand our culinary heritage as well, share it, express it, and build digital confidence. We're not only on the physical sphere, we're on the digital aspect as well. We're taking over the narrative, we're doing this for the next generation. We make it accessible for everything. Be resolved that you are either confident about cooking or not. Be resolved that you're shy or not. You can learn through your cell phone with Kill in Africa. As of now, we are a phygital game. Phygital being we have the physical deck of cards and we have the digital platform as well. As of now, we're available on Play Store and on the web app as well. So we use familiar cultural entry to tap into the potential of African cuisine. African cuisine being food, because I do believe that we are what we eat.
Definitely. And you use AI in education. So what data protection do you use or policymakers use to avoid any leaks?
I will say the bias correct model, because as African, we do need to have an unbiased approach when talking about AI. Those models often are putting aside equity deserving groups, and so far we've been considered as equity seeking and equity deserving groups as well, in terms of our languages, in terms of our contexts. As African, as diaspora, we know better. We know better our societies. We know better our people. We know better our mindset. So we have that better outlook on how we can use AI with transparency, so we can actually create a sense of confidence, belonging, and security, not only for the parents, but for the children as well.
And for teachers and parents skeptical about AI, what's the simplest way to show the impact fast?
The simple way will be to expose them to it. Because eventually, if I'm scared about something, I'm never going to use this thing. But as I'm being educated on that thing, as I'm being exposed to that thing and I better understand how it works, I am more confident to use it, and I have more confidence into my ability to make a difference with that thing. So for Kill in Africa, if people were skeptical, I'll say, let's try a 4-week pilot in a classroom where actually we can engage and measure the results. How well the students, or how well the peers are comfortable saying, well, I'm from West Africa, but I love eating fric, for example, or I love eating brick, for example, because I'm proud to be an African person, and I know that if I consume hibiscus juice, I can reduce my anemia, for example. So knowledge is power to me, and this is why Kill in Africa is being born.
So we use knowledge as well in You lead mobile fab labs and digital skills programs. What training model classes the gap fastest for young people to join startups, Emma?
The skills.
Yeah.
I think oftentimes it's a lack of skills, a lack of digital skills, a lack of confidence. So to us, the perfect model will be a bridge between boot camps, apprenticeship. It has to be hybrid as well. To me, experiential learning is the key. Experiential learning helps the person to fail fast, because we're in the tech sector. As we say in the Silicon Valley, you need to fail fast and quickly so you can reproduce or either better learn the lesson and try to prevent them in the future. So the perfect equation is, as the skills are growing, we apply them immediately, and those people can become employable within 8 to 12 weeks. That's the goal.
Okay, and you spoke about neurodiversity. I would like to know what the practical steps should employees or hubs take to make teams genuinely inclusive?
Flexibility.
Flexibility.
We need flexibility. I think as a neurodivergent leader myself, what eventually helped me was the fact that my bosses, my managers eventually recognized my strength. Instead of seeing the downside of me asking for flexibility. Okay, let's put it that way. You drive a Ferrari. You have a Ferrari. Would you go to a road where there's no concrete on the roads? Would you try to hurt your Ferrari that way? Of course not. Yeah. You will try to provide a proper environment for that fast-speeding car. It's the same with neurodivergent people. Our brain are wired differently. It means we need a different approach, but it doesn't mean we don't function. You need to focus on the strength, the pattern recognition skills, the creativity, and the hyper-focus. And when we find that perfect combination, when you give us clear instructions, we become your Ferrari.
That's it. And how do we ensure women and neurodivergent? And how do we ensure, Amma, women and neurodivergent learners have equal access to these new programs?
I think it's ahead. It's not, to me, it's at the beginning when you design this program, you need to take into consideration intersectionality. What does that mean? Okay, if you want women out of a certain age or mothers to attend your workshop, your program, will you take into consideration the fact that they will need childcare if they have child under a certain age? Yeah. They will. If you're talking about youth or students that don't have the same means or they don't have that much access to public transportation, they will need to have access to means of transportation. Can you subsidize the fact that they can go to your venue, to their home, and eventually schedules-wise? Will you be open to readjust and to do night classes because during the day, those working women won't have time to attend your classes and they need to provide for their families. So again, flexibility here. Plus to me, different forms of learning style. We need to be able to cater to every single form of learning. Be resolved, it is kinesthetic form of learning, audio learning, or visual learning. We need multiple learning models.
So this is the most effective way, according to you. Okay, how can as someone who blends cultural storytelling with tech, like you, Amma, how important is storytelling to help African startups with global customers, please?
Honestly, I would like to draw the attention to the fact that storytelling is not marketing. Storytelling will be the strategy, but it will not be marketing because the customer will buy the identity. It will trust what you do because it has meaning. And in order to do so, the African startups, if I have to give perhaps an advice, it will be if African startup wants to win globally, they will have to translate their local stories, the local realities, into the global value proposition.
What partnerships between national hubs would you like to see after this conference, Amma?
Let's erase the borders. We're talking digital. In digital, there's no borders. So let's erase the borders. Let's have cross-borders acceleration cohorts. What if Abidjan is working with Dakar and is working with Kigali in order to have a cross-border joint program on agri-tech or ed-tech, for example? What if we could have a joint founder residency where people from Kigali can come 6 weeks to Abidjan and vice versa? So let's exchange, let's have mobility, let's have our people, our knowledge eventually talk to one another. Let's have KCCP, knowledge exchanging program and knowledge co-creating program as well, because eventually I feel like we need to have shared everything, shared procurement, shared market entry, because eventually those agreements will help foster the next generation of leaders that will eventually have no issue co-creating and collaborating together.
Okay, when talking about Abidjan, give one practical action a founder in Abidjan should take this week to benefit from the Algiers Declaration.
Okay, so keep the momentum. If you're in Abidjan, keep the momentum and maybe start a customer discovery program right now in North Africa. The summit is going to end today. There's still momentum. What about if you're selling a product in West Africa? What if you use that momentum to have a sprint here in North Africa before the end of December?
Okay, Amma, before we conclude our debate, give me, in few words, describe the conference, the Startups Conference.
Ooh, what would be a few words for that? Create an African innovation mobility pass. That's how I'll sum it.
And would you advise your colleagues or your friends to join the conference next year?
Definitely. I'm trying to get invited again for next year. So, yes, please.
Okay, great. Thank you for joining me, Amma. That was a pleasure for me. Thank you, everyone watching. Stay with AL24 News for more and from the African Startup Center. Goodbye.